It's back to school season, and everyone is searching for number two pencils, folders, and the best new lunchbox ever. While your child's school may send you the supply list, they may not have told you about these 5 things every parent should know. So let's get into it. Thing one is that AI may help write part of your child's IEP this school year. Over the summer, the two biggest special education software platforms, Magic School and Frontline, rolled out AI drafting tools into the versions district actually buy. It can set present levels, goal wording, accommodation suggestions, and plain language parent summaries. More than a dozen state education agencies have put out guidance about it. And here's what the guidance says consistently: AI is allowed to help draft. AI is not allowed to determine eligibility, set service minutes, frequency, or duration, and it's definitely not allowed to decide placement. Several states now require the district to document that a human reviewed and revised anything that AI touched. Just some perspective on this from a special education teacher. This isn't teachers cutting corners. A special education teacher writing 28 IEPs is literally drowning in paperwork, and she was never meant to do all of it herself. Special education is one of the more understaffed areas in public schools across the country. Many special education teachers leave teaching completely after 3 years of service. If there's a tool that gives them back 4 hours to actually teach, that's a good thing. And we're going to touch on teacher shortage later in this video. Here's what AI in your IEP means for you. If you read your child's draft IEP and the present levels sound weirdly generic, like super polished, but maybe they could describe any kid, that's your cue to ask a question. Not an accusation, just a question. You can ask, can you walk me through the data behind this section? That's it. If the data's there, great. You just learned something about your kid. If it's thin, you've opened the door to fixing it before the document gets signed. Either way, you're collaborating, not confronting. Thing two is that your state got a special education report card, and most states failed. Every year under IDEA, the federal government has to grade every state on how well it's actually implementing special education law. It looks at 4 categories and rates: meets requirements, needs assistance, needs intervention, and needs substantial intervention. The 2026 determinations came out this summer, and that data is based off of 2024 data. Here's the breakdown for Part B, and that's students between the ages of 3 and 21. 20 states meet requirements. 26 states need assistance. And 23 of those 26 states have needed assistance for 2 or more years in a row. 4 states plus Washington, D.C. need interventions. So if you're doing the math, most states in this country are not meeting the federal bar on special education. And I do need to say one thing that matters most here. This is a rating system, not a rating of your child's teacher. These determinations look at state level data, things like timely evaluations, graduation and dropout numbers, statewide assessment participation, and whether states resolve complaints on time. Not one of it measures whether the person running your kid's resource room is good at their job. What this means for you is that you should probably go look up your state. I dropped a link in the description and it just takes a couple minutes. If your state has needed assistance 3 years running and your evaluation timeline slips, or your paperwork has been sitting in limbo, this is the context. It doesn't fix anything, but maybe it'll change how you think about your child's school. Hopefully, you'll stop thinking someone is just ignoring you and you start thinking, I need to be the one who tracks the dates. Which brings me to thing three. Thing three is that special education is the deepest teacher shortage across the country. The Learning Policy Institute releases 2026 numbers in July. Nationally, about 425,000 teaching positions are either unfilled or filled by someone who is not fully certified for the assignment they've been given. That's roughly 1 in 8 teaching jobs in America. In special education, it's the #1 shortage area. 45 states are reporting it, and it's the deepest one by raw number of positions. I want to make sure I translate that because teacher shortage is one of those phrases that has been said so many times it stopped meaning anything. And here's what it actually looks like in a building. It looks like there's one speech therapist covering four different schools. It looks like a resource teacher with a caseload nobody could legally serve well. It looks like a long term sub in a self contained classroom in October. It looks like your child's 30 minutes of pullouts becoming 20 because the person who provides it is covering someone else's absence. So, when your child's minutes slip, and at some point they probably will, the reason is almost never that somebody stopped caring. It's that there is no somebody. What this means for you is that shifting from complaint to logistics may be a good move. Instead of this isn't happening, try I noticed the service log shows 20 minutes instead of 30. Is there a staffing issue I should know about and how do we make it up? That's a question that gets answered. And as for the service log, you're entitled to know whether services are being delivered as written. And make sure to ask early, ask kindly, and ask for it in writing. Thing four is that Congress spent the entire summer fighting over who runs special education. Here's a quick background because I know not everyone's following this. The administration has been moving pieces of the Department of Education to other agencies. Special Education Oversight, which is the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, OSERS, has been headed to Health and Human Services. On July 13th, the Senate Education Committee voted 13 to 9 to advance a bill called S 5046, and that bill would prohibit that transfer. And it wasn't a party line vote. Two Republican senators, Suzanne Collins and Lisa Murkowski, co sponsored it alongside Senator Kaine. It's also not law. It advanced out of committee to the full Senate. Its future on the floor is genuinely unclear, and the House committee has been moving in the opposite direction, voting to make those transfers permanent. And here's the part I want you to actually hear. Your child's rights did not change this summer. IDEA is a statute. Section 504 is a statute. Which federal building administers them does not alter your right to an evaluation, an IEP, a free and appropriate public education, or due process. Those are laws. They require an act of Congress to change, and no act of Congress has changed them. What this means for you is that you should probably keep tabs on this, but don't let it hijack your fall. The place your child's education actually gets determined this year is in the meeting you'll sit in with your child's team, not a committee vote in Washington. Put your energy where your leverage is. Thing five is that if your child gets Medicaid funded services, watch this fall very closely. This is the one nobody's talking about at back to school night. Two things happened. First, the Justice Department issued a legal opinion questioning whether disability rights law actually requires states to fund services that let people with disabilities stay in their own homes and communities. It doesn't change the law by itself, but it signals a direction. And advocates are worried that guidance and regulations built onto that requirement start getting rolled back. Second, and more concretely, Medicaid disruption in California and Minnesota are already leaving families and caregivers in limbo right now. Why this matters for public schools is that a lot of families don't realize how much of what is happening in a school building is Medicaid funded. Districts bill Medicaid for school based speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, nursing, counseling, and sometimes even transportation. When that funding tightens, districts are going to feel it, and it shows up as service delivery pressure. And what this means for you is that this is a practical one. Get your child's current services documented and in writing right now while things are stable. A current IEP or 504 with specific service minutes written into it is a commitment. Vague language, things like as needed, as available, or even consultative, is not. If your child's plan is vague, this is the year to make sure that it gets specific and keep your own copy in a place where you can definitely find it. Specificity now protects you from ambiguity later. That's it for this week. AI and IEP drafting, your state's report card, the staffing shortage, and the fight over with who runs special education, and finally, Medicaid pressure on school based services. Notice what all five things have in common. Not one of them is about your child's individual teacher, and not one of them is your fault. Only real defense against system level pressure is a parent who's paying attention, keeps their own records, and asks good questions instead of angry ones. And that's you because you just did the paying attention part. If this was useful, subscribe. I do this every week and I'll update you when S5046 moves. And if you're heading into school this year already running on empty, that's what the Insight Family Community is all about, a place where you can find support for you in your own parenting journey. The link to join is in the description. And I'll see you next week.